Welcome to the Waiting Warriors podcast. I'm Michelle Bowler. I'm an Army wife of over 8 years, a mom of 4 little girls, and a huge believer that being a supportive military or first responder loved one is way easier when you connect with a community. In addition to sharing some of my own insights and journey, I have set out to interview waiting warriors around the world so we can all learn together from their triumphs and their struggles. Together, we can do so much more than just survive. We can thrive. And that is what being a waiting warrior is all about. Hey, waiting warriors out there. Welcome to another podcast episode. And before we get to today's interview, I have a quick shout out to this really awesome company called Her Hero Jewelry. They sent this shirt. If you're on YouTube, you can see it. If not, if you're listening, you'll just have to see when I post a picture on Instagram. But it says military spouse, 1.5 cups patience, 2 tablespoons. I should learn how to read, guys. I should really learn how to read. It's elbow grease, courage, tolerance, a dash of adventure, and then serve with pride. It's just super comfy. I thought you guys would love it because it's, 1, I love like a creative t-shirt, and 2, it's an awesome military spouse company shirt. So again, just Her Hero Jewelry. Very, I don't know. You gotta like share the good t-shirts when they're like comfy, you know? It's good. But today's episode is, I'm really excited. And if you're on YouTube, it's like, look at her necklace. It's all flashy. And it's just fun to talk to you. Welcome to the show. Aleida is a realtor in Central Texas. She was a physical therapist assistant for 20 years, which sounds like a fun career. And I'm curious how like you could possibly have a career that long as a military spouse, because that entire time her husband was in the Army. They have a 15-year-old daughter and been through a whole lot in the military. Let's just dive into that. So tell us all the things. You get married. Okay, first of all, did you marry a soldier or did you marry and then he became a soldier? Which one?
So we started dating when we went to the same high school, but we weren't high school sweethearts. I was a sophomore when he was a senior. And we started dating when I graduated from high school, which was in 1997. Okay. And so while we were dating, he was in college, and he had already been in college for like 4 years because he was working at McDonald's and paying his way through school. And it was really difficult. And so he's like, hey, there's this program called ROTC, and if I join, they'll pay for my college, for what was left of it, and they'll give me a dorm room. And his parents lived really far from the college, so that was going to save him a lot on gas. It's like, oh, that's awesome. They're going to pay for your school, not realizing that then he was going to have to like join the military. I didn't know at that part. So we got married in December 2000. So the 16th of December will be 20 years we've been married. Wow. Yeah. And we got married and he was still in college. I was already a therapist. My dad wouldn't let me get married until I graduated college. So my poor dad, I graduated college in May. I turned 21 in July and I got married in December. But yeah, so we got married and he still needed like 1.5 years more of college. And 9/11 happened and then he commissioned right after. So all we've known is war in our military journey. So he left to Fort Knox because he was an armor officer first. And he left there. He went there by himself because they had told him that lieutenants were typically not married, and so that he shouldn't take his wife with him to lieutenant school. So he went by himself. And I stayed behind. And I was working as a therapist. And then we found out that all the guys in his school were all coming to Fort Hood because Fort Hood was going to be one of the first ones to deploy to Iraq. So he and one other guy got 4th Infantry Division, and then all the rest of them went to 1st Cav. So here at Fort Hood, they were always gone. So alternating between 4th ID going, they would come back, 1st Cav would go, 1st Cav would come back, 4th ID would go. So it's crazy town here at Fort Hood. But
you been at Fort Hood the whole time?
And no. This is our second time. Okay. And we're crazy and asked to come here instead of Italy. We had gotten orders to Italy and we asked to come to Fort Hood instead. Yeah.
You don't hear about that not very often.
Well, our families are from here. We're family oriented, and our parents are getting older, so we're 6 hours away from home. So that, and it was just going to be like we knew that he would want to be retiring, and we didn't want him to retire from overseas, and then our daughter doing high school over there, and then having to come somewhere and do her senior year, not knowing. So we're very structured people, as much as we can be, in this life. So we chose to come here instead.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about that like crazy middle though, because I know you weren't at Fort Hood, but I know you have been through like a whole bunch of deployments and
Mm-hmm.
all the PCSs and stuff. And then I don't know, there's no like smooth way. Just so everybody knows, I've asked to ask this question. I would never dream of asking this to some random person without permission first. But I know like you only have one daughter and that wasn't planned. What was that experience like for you?
So she is our miracle baby. We were told when, we knew that we wanted kids since we got married, and because of him going to the armor school by himself, and then we got here and he deployed right away to Iraq for a year. When he came back, we're like, okay, well, we're gonna try to have a baby. And we were trying and we couldn't get pregnant. So we went to go see a fertility doctor, and there's like, they did tests and everything on both of us. And there's like, there is no physical way that you all will conceive naturally. You need to do IVF. And we knew that he was going to be deploying again to Iraq. So the doctor's like, we just need to get you, before they usually wait a while, like they do medications and other things before they go straight to IVF. Because it's expensive. But they knew he was deploying, so they're like, let's just get you on the waiting list. We were here at Fort Hood, so San Antonio was the closest military installation that had an IVF program. And so they got us on the waiting list there. And I remember just telling the doctor, I'm like, can you please just give me medication while we wait? Because I had heard the waiting just to get your first initial appointment was 4 to 5 months. And so originally she had given me 100 milligrams of Clomid, and it did not make me ovulate at all. So that's when she said, there's no way you're going to get pregnant on your own. So when she gave me the medication again, she gave it to me at 50 milligrams. So I'm thinking in my head, if it didn't work at 100, it's not going to work at 50, but okay. And it was during December timeframe. We went home to visit our family because my cousin was getting married, and I ended up conceiving our daughter. I guess because the pressure was off, like they're like, there's no way that you can conceive, and so we stopped thinking about it, and I had a great time at the wedding. And, like I said, my anniversary is on the 16th, and I like Joel Osteen. He's a Christian pastor in Houston, and I get his devotionals daily, and I had received a devotional that day on my anniversary, and it was Romans 12:12, and it just spoke to me. And it's be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer, or something to that effect. And I was like, okay, God, I'm listening. I know that what I'm asking you for is coming. I just have to be patient, and I have to continue to pray for what I want. Well, I was pregnant and I didn't know yet. Yeah. And we went back home again for Christmas time. And I don't know if you know anything about Texas, but Texas is typically very hot, and especially South Texas, right? So even like during Christmas time in South Texas, maybe the coldest it gets is like 70, and people are like with parkas because they're cold. For them, it's cold. And it was Christmas Eve, and my father-in-law comes inside, and he's like, it's snowing outside. And we're like, what? You're right. You're joking with us. We come out, and everything is covered in snow. It had not snowed there in over 100 years.
Wow.
It was like a Christmas miracle. And then we found out we were pregnant.
That day?
Like 2 days later after.
You're like, the Gilmore Girls?
I've heard of it. I've never watched it.
Oh, come on. In the Gilmore Girls, the mom like says that snow is magical, and she's like, she gets really into it. It's literally magical for you. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay, so we got our miracle that Christmas, and so when she was 2 months old, he deployed again to Iraq. So that was really difficult. We owned a home here at Fort Hood. I think I had put in my little notes that I was working as a therapist, and during my lunch break, I went and I purchased a house while he was deployed during his first deployment. Yeah, they were doing like a brand new construction, and I lived in an apartment because when I moved here, I was like 22, and my dad knew that my husband was deploying. So my dad's like, I want you somewhere safe, so you need to be in an apartment with gates or whatever. So I did that, and then I was like, I can't stay in an apartment, this whole time. So they were building a brand new construction right by my work. So I went during lunch just to drive around, and I ended up buying a house. Yeah, power of attorney. Yeah, so I would send him pictures because during that time we didn't have like the Skype and all that stuff during the first deployments. It was crazy. If you got a phone call, you always had to have that phone right next to you in case they called, and it was like a 3-minute phone call, and it was like staticky. You couldn't hear anything. So we bought the house, and so when he came home back to a house. And then when he deployed again, my daughter was 2 months old, and my parents were like, just come back down to South Texas and we'll help you with her so that you can still work if you want to. So that's what I did. And I was very blessed that my company that I worked for before I became an Army wife hired me back on. And it was a pediatric clinic. So I worked with children. And there was a lot of us therapists who were moms. And so we're the owners. And so they had an in-home or a daycare inside the clinic, in the pediatric clinic. So it was really nice because I could take her with me to work and nurse her between patients and stuff like that. So that was a blessing.
Yeah, that is an awesome company.
Yeah. And so that was a very long year. The first one I think went faster just because I was by myself, and I just and I worked a lot, but the second time with a baby, it was so hard.
Yeah. Any year, like the first year with a baby is long. Like, I've done it 4 times. It is a long year. But then add a deployment onto that, which we did like for the last baby, it's long, which is so funny because like, the days go by so slowly. Yeah, I don't know.
Especially, I don't know about your kids, but my baby, she did not sleep. She did not sleep, and I was a walking zombie. Yes, I don't want that again. But yeah, so when he came back, we wanted to have more kids, and because we wanted like 4 or 5 kids. And we tried everything. Like again, and the hard part is PCSing and starting the process over with a new doctor again, and being told something else that the other one didn't say, and trying other medications, and the yo-yoing of weight as well, because what I have is PCOS. It's polycystic ovarian syndrome, so it mimics being diabetic. So your insulin is not working well, and you're producing more male hormones than you are female hormones. So my weight is always like fluctuating, especially when you're doing like all the hormone injections and all that stuff too. So it's very hard. So we've done like 7 IUIs. We've done all sorts of medications. We did IVF twice at Fort Bragg when we were stationed at Fort Gordon in Georgia. The closest military place I would do it was Fort Bragg. So I would drive 5 hours to do the treatments. Yeah. And unfortunately, I never got pregnant again. And I'm thankful like that I never miscarried or anything. I've only ever been pregnant once, and that was with our daughter. I don't know if I could deal with that heartache, but it's been a challenge. I think this is the first time that I've been at peace with not, you know what I mean? Like now that I'm doing real estate and I'm busy and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, God, it wasn't meant to be, for me to be a mom again. But I have to be thankful for the blessing that you did give me and enjoy her, But
I feel like that would have to be really, really hard. And I feel so unqualified to even be asking the questions because I have 4 little kids. Like, clearly infertility that's not my problem.
But it is a problem for so many, especially in the military.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder too, from our guys, like, you know, if it's like all those injections they give them, or just being in the heat, because it's not just me, my husband also has issues. So like being in Iraq where it's really hot, I don't know if it does something to their sperm count.
No,
I
there's
don't know,
probably
but
something. There is. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you kind of brushed on it. So how many while you guys were like trying to dealing with the infertility, how many PCSs did you have to do?
So from Fort Hood, we went to, I can't remember. We started the process again with the same doctor when he came back. I don't remember. I don't think so. I think as soon as he came back from because Fort Hood has been our longest duty station. We were here for 4 years because he was always gone. Everything else has been like 2 to 3 years, or 1.5. So from here, we went to Fort Knox for the captain's career course. So we were only supposed to be there 6 months, but he got diagnosed with really, really bad PTSD. So he was able to get out of the captain's career course. They allowed him to get out and get treatment. And then once he was done with that, he went back and finished the captain's career course, and they gave us a command there at Fort Knox. So we ended up being there 2 years, and we're only supposed to be there 6 months. Yeah, so we got seen at the University of Louisville. We got seen off post for treatment. So I just think it wasn't the right time then either, because we were dealing with him and the PTSD and stuff. And then imagine me all hormonal with all the medications and stuff. So it was not a good time or mix. And then from there, we went to El Paso. We were there 1.5 years. We did do treatments there. There was no military installation that did it there. So the one that they sent us to was Walter Reed in Bethesda. So they flew my husband and I both over there to do the initial processing, because they don't pay for IVF. The military doesn't. They just pay for like the workup to find out what is going on. But the actual IVF you have to pay for. And it just didn't feel right, just because it felt like you're just a number there for me at Walter Reed. Like I didn't feel like, I don't know, good patient care. I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't feel comfortable going through the process there. And then having to fly there, you know what I mean? And do the treatments and stay in a hotel. And so we just did medications during that time. We didn't do the IVF. Then from there, we went to Fort Gordon. And then at Fort Gordon, we did, like I said, I would travel to Fort Bragg, and we did 1 IVF, and they got 6 embryos total. And that's another thing that I had a confliction with being a Christian, was, to me, an embryo is a baby. And so I was like, if I have embryos left over, what are we going to do? Because to me, those are babies, you know? So when we did the first cycle, with the 6 embryos, they implanted 2 and it didn't take. So then they froze 4 of them. So when we went back to do it again, it's called a FET, a frozen embryo transfer is what it's called. They put 2 embryos per vial when they freeze them. So when they thawed them out, 1 of them died of the 4. And then the day of the procedure, another one died. So we only had 2 to put in. And then that one didn't take. So I'm thankful, because I didn't have to make that tough call. You know, God did that for us. And then from there, we went to Fort Campbell. And Fort Campbell also doesn't have an IVF. Yeah. So I saw a doctor, I think he's Chilean, in Nashville. We saw him, and he also, at this point, he had already deployed to Afghanistan. So when he came back, we're like, you know, we're going to try again, whatever. I had lost 80 pounds. I was doing CrossFit and eating really well while he was deployed. And they tell you, especially when you have PCOS, that if you lose weight, it'll help conceive. So I'm like, this is it. You know, I've lost 80 pounds. I was feeling really good. I was feeling really healthy and in shape. And we went in and we saw that doctor, and he was just very blunt. And he's like, I believe I was 35 at the time. I can't remember. And he was like, was I 35? Maybe 34. I was under 35. And he told me that my eggs were that of a 45-year-old. And I was like, oh. I know. And so then he's like, I think our best bet, he's like, your problem is not carrying a baby. Your problem is like making a baby. Your eggs are not good quality. And then, my husband's count was low. So
Yeah.
he's like, I think you should just use a donor egg, and we'll use your husband's sperm, and, we'll make you a baby and you can carry it. I just felt so conflicted with that. And I was just like, that ride from Nashville home after hearing that was just the longest car ride ever. Like, I was just so hurt. And I was like, how can we not tell? Well, that's another thing. And I was like, what am I going to tell this child, and he's like, oh, you don't tell the child anything. You just, I have a book. He's like, I have a book of all these ladies who donate eggs to my clinic, and we'll find one that looks like you. And then you just will never tell this child. And I was like, I can't, I don't know. So, so we didn't go through it. It may be for someone, but for me, I think I would have just rather adopted a child who was already in this world that needed a loving home, and not go through all of that.
Yeah. So how do you go through all of this? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have deployment with PCS, with a baby, and a baby, like the baby that you have and you love, and PTSD, and just the millions of heartaches that come with infertility and trying, and the different hard conversations you're having to have, all the travel, and then you PCS again, and then you deploy, and then you have to start this whole basically, I feel like it sounds like you're starting the infertility process just all over.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
With God's help, I really don't know. Just lots of prayer and staying busy, and just thinking about all the blessings that I do have, and not focusing on what I don't have, I think it's easier just because I do have my beautiful daughter and she's perfect in every way. So I can't complain. I can't. I've been blessed so much. So
yeah. But that doesn't negate the heartache. Like you can see the heartache is still very real. But, I'm so touched because you're such a beautiful example of counting your blessings, even though you long for more blessings, that's what I consider kids to be. Yes, they are a handful, and you can say whatever you want about kids, but they are blessings. They are huge, beautiful blessings. So it's I don't know, it's just beautiful to hear you you're counting your blessings and longing and praying for other ones, but you're still forgetting all the ones that you have.
Yeah. And I will tell you that, how I told you about Romans 12:12. So after we did the IVF and it didn't work, I was like, God, you opened all these doors, and we paid so much money, to do IVF and just everything, physically, emotionally, financially, taxing. And I was like, after it didn't work, I remember sitting at my computer and thinking, Lord, why did you open all these doors? Why did you make me go through this process on my body? You know what I mean? For it not to work. Why did you open the doors? You should just close them from the beginning,
Yeah.
And I open up my computer and I get Romans 12:12 again from a Joel Osteen devotional.
Oh.
I started bawling, girl. I was like, okay, God, okay, I get it. I had not gotten that devotional since the first time, it had already been, I think my daughter was 7 or 8 by that time. So it had already been 9 years since I had gotten that devotional. And so I just felt, okay, it's not in my hands. It's not.
Yeah.
It had to have served a purpose. And I'm very vocal about, most of my friends know about our struggles with IVF. And I have so many people that have come to me and asked me questions, and I'm so happy to share, because I don't want people to feel alone or that it's an embarrassment because you can't have a child,
Yeah. That is so important. That's one of the reasons why I was so grateful that you would share that, because I know so many people who struggle, and they struggle silently, or they struggle and they maybe share a little bit, but they still feel so alone about it. And that
Yeah.
heartbreaking to me, because I can't imagine that torture, and then you're feeling alone. Like, that's miserable.
Yeah, because after that doctor told us that about the eggs, then he had already done a year in Afghanistan. He had only been home like a month, and they went again. They deployed again after only being home for 5 months from the year-long deployment, because they got tasked with the Ebola mission to Africa. And it was not considered a deployment. It was considered a humanitarian mission. So they didn't have to be home for that year. Yeah, that was so hard. And so then I gained all my weight back when he deployed the other time. So yeah, it's just been a yo-yo. So when he came back from there, we PCS to Chesapeake, Virginia, by Virginia Beach. That was a nice assignment. Yeah. And there we were seen by Navy doctors, and they had, so they, if you know anything about the Norfolk area, that was where the first IVF baby was born. I think it's the Jones Institute is what it's called.
Really?
Yeah. So we were there where the first IVF baby was born or was made. So we got to see those doctors. The Army or the military doesn't have their own embryologist, but the doctor did perform the insemination. We would just have to go to the Jones Institute to do to see the embryologist that would clean out the sperm and do all that fancy stuff that I know nothing about. But when that didn't work again, I told my husband, we need to shift gears. There's so many kids who need a home. And I didn't share this in my other thing, but we became foster parents while we were in Virginia. But that was a heartache in itself as well, because our hope was to be able to adopt, and foster care is not necessarily meant for that. They always preach reunification with family if possible. And so we received a little girl and a little boy, brother and sister, on Memorial Day weekend at 8:00 at night. And we had nothing for little ones. We didn't know their names, nothing. They just called and said, hey, we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Will you take them? We were like, yep. And we had prayed, like we had said, my husband's name is Angel and our daughter's name is Ariella, and I'm Aleida, so we're all with A's. And so I said, if we ever had more kids, we're going to name them all with A's. So before we got these kids, like I said, we didn't know their names. And so I was like, Lord, if these kids are meant to be ours, they're going to have names that start with A. And they did. Yeah, but they weren't meant to be ours, only for 2 months. But during those 2 months, I mean, there was like, if they were always there, they were, like my husband didn't want to get attached. And I think he's the one that got attached the most. Because he would come home from work and they'd be like, Daddy. I mean, like from the second day, they were already calling us Mom and Dad, because they didn't have that structure. So the judge decided that they should go back to family. And from that morning that we went to court, they were gone, within like 6 hours after. That was really hard.
Yeah. It's just like,
I have so many stories to tell, not always very happy ones, but
yeah.
I know that it served a purpose. And even if like during those 2 months that they saw what a family unit should look like, and she was very bright. The little girl was very bright, and she knew a lot more probably than she should. So hopefully she'll remember what right is, and I just pray for them. I pray that they're being taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. Foster kids are like a special place in heaven for foster kids and foster parents. So what would you say to a military spouse though, who's going through the infertility and the struggles? Like you know what I mean? Like you've been through, it sounds like everything there is to go through.
Don't give up. There's always a reason and a purpose for your what you're going through. We may not see it, we may never see it, we may never know, but just keep pushing through. Everything's for a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
It just, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah. But it's like, did you ever feel like why does everything have to be so hard?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how would you get yourself out of those moments? Because that is a really hard place to be, infertility or not.
Because like I said, I'm an open book. I just talked about it. For me, that helps me to talk about it, I know there's some people that don't like to share, but I think it's hurting you more by keeping it inside. You'd be surprised of how many women, especially in the military, deal with infertility. And I think just sharing may help you release some of that.
Yeah. How did you just talk to anybody who would listen, or did you find special groups or something?
Yeah, because I was a part of infertility pages or women in the military who were doing IVF and all that stuff. So I think sharing there, but then just in small groups, like in the FRG or when I was part of the spouses club, you know what I mean? The word gets around.
Yeah.
So people or my friends would say, hey, because they know that I'm an open book, and I would tell them, if anybody's going through this or whatever, they would say, hey, my friend, would you mind talking to her? I'm not going to tell you what's going on. I'll let her share, but would you mind talking to her? I'm like, of course. So
that's so awesome that you are the kind of person that people can trust their friends in the hard place. You know what I mean? That's no small thing. That speaks a lot to you and your character and your heart, even. That, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's I don't trust my friends and their tender heart with just anybody. But I love that you've been there for so many people. And
I try.
I love it. So what's your key to thriving that you would share with your fellow waiting warriors?
Try to stay positive, find something that you love, be a part of the community. I think I admin a lot of Facebook pages, and those ladies have become, it's mostly, spouses, military wives that the pages are for. And I just, finding community, being involved, helping where you can, it helps you stay busy. And my heart is of being a giver. That is my love language. My love language is not receiving or giving gifts. My love language is acts of service. So wherever I can help, that always just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
It may not be for everybody, but try it. Yeah. See if it is for you.
That's the fun, interesting thing about the love languages is you got to try them all and then actually think and analyze what one is yours. So because you are such an open book, if somebody wants to connect, if they have questions, if they just need a kindred heart with infertility, what is a good way for somebody to get in touch with you?
They can email me if you want to share my email with them, or do you want me to say it on
You can say it, and then we'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Okay. It's aflores7533@gmail.com.
Awesome. So yeah, reach out, guys. Because seriously, it my heart just breaks. It just breaks that this is something that people have. You have such a burning desire to do something so good, and yet for some reason you can't. And I can't imagine that struggle. I've had to watch close family and friends deal with that, but I am so grateful that there are people like you who will come on a podcast and speak to thousands and open up your heart so they do have somebody that can relate and can give answers and can give hope, and just those, even just the beautiful reminders to just continually count your blessings and understand that there can be a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. all you waiting warriors out there, if you struggle with this, please reach out. Please, like, if you're, I can't give answers on what to do, but I will always send a warm, loving hug. Aletha will send her love and her advice. But yeah, just know my heart is with you. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being on the show. Waiting Warriors, remember, just because it is hard, and I know if you are listening to this, you are probably going through something really, really hard. It doesn't mean it has to be totally miserable. Have a good week, guys.
Bye.
Hey, Waiting Warriors, if you are in the middle of a deployment, heading into one, or shoot, you're just a military spouse who wants to get ahead of the deployment game, I have created a free resource just for you. It's a PDF file called 3 Ways to Set Up Your Marriage for a Successful Deployment. It is 3 quick things that you can do with your spouse that I've done with mine that really helped us through our number of separations. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be a link just in the caption. You can go to my website, thewaitingwarriors.com, and there's a yellow link with it on the top right, or you can go to subscribepage.com/3, like the number 3, ways to set up your marriage for a successful deployment. Okay? There will be a link in the bio and the show notes if you need it. Go check that out. Please take care of yourself, take care of your marriage, be intentional, and let me help you through this.